Welcome, everyone. I think we are going to go ahead and get started. It's just about the top of the hour. We want to be conscious of everyone's time today. So thank you for putting us in your schedule for our Global Rural Nursing Virtual Collaboration Learning Grant pre-application session. We hope that this will provide some valuable information to you as you consider applying for the grant program this year, and we hope you will. We are going to be fielding questions at the end of this session, so you can use your chat Q&A, or if you want to do a live question, you can always raise your hand. Please keep in mind that we will do our very best to get to all questions. If we don't get to you, we will make sure that we answer that question to you offline. As we get started, I just want to give a quick introduction. If you haven't met me yet, my name is Stacy Villano, and I work with the leadership team at GRNEN to help facilitate some operational support as well as marketing and communication. I am joined by Corey Kilgore, who is a co-founder and leader of GRNEN. So Corey, if you want to say hello.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So I'm Corey Kilgore. I'm the director of the MHCH Foundation. And as Stacy said, one of the co-founders of the GRNEN. So happy to have you here today. And on behalf of the MHCH Foundation, we're really honored to participate in these grants and have the opportunity to hopefully do something positive for rural nursing education around the globe.
So before we get into the grant itself, we wanted to take a quick moment and share a little bit about the MHCH Foundation. MHCH, their mission is to improve the quality of life and create opportunities for growth and enterprise in rural South Dakota. They have, for the past 3 years, been funding the Global Rural Nursing Virtual Collaboration Learning Grant that GRNEN has awarded to international partners. We are incredibly grateful for their continued support and to allow us to bring these opportunities to nursing schools around the world. So as we get into the actual purpose and goal of the grant, I just wanted to share very brief backstories to give you an idea of how our leadership team got to this place. When GRNEN was first established, the idea was to initially exchange students between countries to foster that learning and global connection. Of course, as we've all been aware, COVID changed those plans. I'm sure they changed a lot of people's plans. And for the safety and in compliance to restrictions worldwide, the program had to be paused. So our leadership team turned on a dime and said, how do we make this happen without the physical exchange of students? And if you are familiar with GRNEN and you've been active with us over the past couple of years or couple of months, you'll know who we are today is the outcome of that transition, where we've put in place the online platform for the forum where there's collaboration and sharing, the webinars, and of course the grant. The grant was one of the biggest pieces because if you can't exchange students and send them to other countries to learn about that country and the rural communities they're in, how can we do that on a virtual level? So here we have our grant, which is in place of that, where we provide funding to programs that will promote the learning, collaboration, and global connections, and foster partnerships between international nursing students and educators who are interested in collaborating on a rural community health project. And the goal of this grant is really to allow students and educators to improve their understanding of different rural cultures and population health concerns. We're leveraging a variety of different virtual networking tools to foster those relationships. And we hope that by creating the ongoing global relationships, we're going to bridge that understanding as we learn more about different cultures, the similarities and the differences that we're discovering between our partners. And then we bring those groups back together to share their creative results so we can all benefit from that learning process. I lost my mouse. You can see at the bottom of this screen, I'm sharing the link. It's grnen.org /grants. You will find our entire grant program packet right on that site. That will contain the program overview, your eligibility and requirements, funding, and the application process. There are a lot of different eligibility requirements that you will find there. I'm going to go over some of the high level ones that are most critical to this grant and the eligibility for your application. So this program is exclusive to universities of higher learning, nursing programs, colleges, universities, institutes of higher education who are partnered with a similar organization in another country. You must have an international partner to apply. Collaborations also must be led by a nurse educator from that respective country. So you will need to have a faculty leading your program who is going to oversee the students. Which brings us to one of the third most critical components. This must involve students. This grant is specifically designed to foster that learning and education of nursing students. So we are requiring that you involve a third or fourth year BSN nursing student or similar accreditation in your country, as well as nursing graduate students. So individuals who have graduated and may be coming back for a higher degree are also eligible to participate in these programs. Your application is required to have a letter of support by either your dean, your department chair, supervisor, or somebody that you are reporting to. So there is understanding from your university that you are applying to the grant and that they support that decision and the involvement of you as the nurse educator and of the students to participate in this program. Partnered universities must show proof of a plan designated to create cohesion between the universities and foster ongoing relationships among students and educators. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide as we get into some of the more details. It also must demonstrate that students are going to be engaging with a rural remote community. Now, we understand that urban centers are equally as challenged in certain areas, especially these days with nursing shortages. But our focus as an organization and our funder, MHCH, our focus is on rural. So this is required to be involved with a rural community. And it's really important for us to share this direct patient care is not required. So your program, while we are asking you to have a partner in a rural community, we're not saying that your students need to go in and provide direct patient care. And then we are asking that you demonstrate along the way your students' learning journey. And this can be any creative way you want to share. We have people that send videos, that send photographs, that have done podcasts, journal entries. However, you decide to set up your program, as long as we can see the learning journey along the way. The components of the application, and again, this is all online, so you don't have to write this down. You will be able to see it. The program summary is going to be a 500-word or less summary that's going to describe the overall objective of your program. So what your program title is, what you're planning on working on, and what the objective therein. We're asking that you describe in detail how you are going to meet the program specific and eligibility requirements. Those are all the bullet points that you'll see with the ones that we just went over. And then there are some others. with fostering online collaboration, using GRNEN tools, how you're going to leverage that, a statement of need, your documentation of the rural communities that you're identifying with, your goals, what your activities are, how often are you planning on meeting, how are the students planning on meeting, how are you recruiting students, what methods that are you going to be using for your project, how you're going to hold your students accountable for participation. That's especially important if they are not going to be a classroom project, if this is going to be a research project where students are volunteering. Your estimated timetable. So the grant will run from September 1, 2024 through December 15th, 2025. So while you have those entire 15 months, it's not necessarily required that you use all those 15 months. We might have people that start off in September, but don't bring their students on till later. So how you plan on using the time, your project plan, and then your budget justification. So we will talk about that in a second, but how the budget is going to be justified for your partners' funding. And then, as we discussed before, that signed letter of support. So here are some of the important dates that we want to make everyone aware of. March 1, just over a week, the application will go live. If you visit our website, that will be, the live link will be shared there. We will also email everybody as soon as that goes live, just as a reminder, so you can just drop in. The application will close on June 3rd. That is going to close at 12 p.m. Pacific time. On June 17th, we will award our grants. If your grant application has been accepted and you are a recipient of a 2024 grant, you will be notified via email along with your partner. We do host a training seminar in August. That exact date will be to be determined once we understand who our grant recipients are. Because the time that we select will also be affected by our grant partners and where they reside worldwide. This is just a very brief seminar to get you started, set you up for success, and introduce any of the tools that are going to be required for collaboration. September 1 is the program start date. December 15th of next year, 2025, is your program end date. That is also the date that your final report will be due. And then we do ask for final presentations to be shared via webinar with our community in Q1 2026. If you aren't sure what those final webinars look like, I invite you to visit our website under our events on-demand webinars. We have all of the recordings from this year and from last year. They're great presentations to watch in general, but they give you an idea of how our grant participants in previous years have shared their final presentations. So just a little information about the funding. In 2024, this year, GRNN is offering 4 $5,000 grants. We recommend that universities share the award 50-50. At the same time, we also understand that there may be situations where it might be advisable for the partners to determine that the split should be different to overcome some inequities between countries, either because of exchange rates or other needs. That is at the discretion of the partners. Obviously, that will need to be shared back with us. If you are awarded a grant, you will be receiving a grant packet that includes information on where to wire the funding. So we will need to know if your grant is not a 50-50 split. Otherwise, we will assume that it is. A maximum of 30% or $750 US can be used for indirect, sorry, it says indirection, expenses. And it is required that all funding be used prior to the program deadline. which will be December 15th, again, 2025, and that funding be used specifically for the program as outlined in your application. Any unused funding will be requested to be returned. So with regard to student involvement, and this is a question that we get a lot, so we wanted to address it in this session. We have seen educators develop two different kinds of programs when they apply for a Global Rural Nursing Virtual Collaboration Learning Grant. A classroom project is typically one that an educator will require their students to participate in as part of their classroom work. So the entire class will participate. There will be a section of their grade, their syllabus, their curriculum, if you will, during that course dedicated to working on this project. That is a very easy way to entice student engagement because there will be a grade attributed to that program. We've also seen a number of our educators develop research projects where they collaborate on a specific topic. And in that situation, students are invited to participate on the program on a voluntary basis. This is an exciting opportunity because it really allows students who are vested in whatever you are researching to get involved and to build some credentials on their CV. At the same time, this is also a more challenging way to entice student involvement because it is volunteer and because they are also working to fulfill their education requirements. We have seen some collaborations where students drop off or potentially backburner their activism in this project. So ways that we have seen successful research projects and successful even to further the classroom project and the engagement in that is course credit. We had a university at one point in time take their funding and their portion of the funding, and they offered anyone who participated in that project 1 credit towards their degree, and it was free. They paid for it. We have seen people offer stipends. So students who participate in the research project do receive a stipend for their work. And that can also cover costs for travel if there's need for that, meals and other things. GRNEN offers a certification of completion at the end of the project. So students who participate from the beginning to the end will receive a certification from us that is also co-signed by their educator. And that is a nice thing to be able to share on their resume. Other awards and recognitions from the university itself, and there's also opportunities for capstones. Another way to really develop a strong resume, a strong application is to identify a rural partner in advance of submission. So what we mean by that is if you are going to be building a project with your partner and you know what rural community you would like to work with in your country, inviting in somebody that is responsible for either that clinic, hospital, or a leader in that community early in the application process is going to give you a broader understanding of that rural partner, of what their needs are, areas of improvement, ways that your project can best support them. And that's going to help you develop a stronger application because your intentions are going to be directly tied to the need of the community. And then your rural partner is going to be able to share input, and they're going to be involved with you from the beginning process. So it's going to also make sure that your program is as successful as possible. And then we wanted to share a few considerations that you could keep in mind when you are working on your project or when you're identifying partners is that as an international project, it always has the tendency to present some unique challenges. When you're working with people in different time zones, obviously there's a struggle at times to find meeting dates and meeting times. Often you'll be needing your students to either spend some time on Zoom calls early in the morning or even late at night, depending on where your partner resides. There's also challenges with calendar years and school calendars because not everybody operates on the same calendar. So where your students might be in session, you might have your partner students be on a break. And not just, a winter break, but it could be summer break when you are starting your session. That also goes for graduation dates. So students may be onboarding and offboarding at different times. Access and availability of technology, depending on what countries you're working with. And then we've even seen some disruptions due to extreme weather. There are some, especially as we've seen with climate, but with countries that might be more affected by extreme weather that can cause disruptions to the schedules. Just things that are important to keep in mind. When you select an international partner, it is imperative that faculty are involved and they're leading and forging a strong and respectful relationship. Building the foundation of the grant program prior to introducing the opportunity of students is very helpful. We have some faculty that will spend time together for months building the foundation of the project, laying out the calendar, understanding how students are going to meet, when, what's expected, when the program is going to commence, and for sometimes 5 or more months before they engage the students. That always tends to help ease students in because you have the opportunity to figure out what some of those challenges might be with respect, especially to time zones and school calendars. And then understanding the time frame that's necessary to perform the student projects. And this one is key. So just as we said earlier, just because it's a 15-month program doesn't necessarily mean your project needs to extend the entire 15 months. So there could be a situation where your grant commences on September 1, 2024, and you spend the first 5 months working with your collaborative educator to develop the finer details of your program. And you identify that your students are both in session without any conflicts to finals or exams. So April could be the best time for your students to collaborate. And you're going to say that it's a 3-week program. So you might spend September to April working on the foundational work of your project. The students will engage for 3 weeks in April. They'll end their participation with the rural community. And then you might spend the next 2 to 3 months finalizing the project, tying up any loose ends, and you deliver your report in September of 24, even though the project ends in December. That is perfectly fine. We want to make sure that you understand that the timeline of your calendar is specific to your project needs, the time it's required to fulfill the project, and that student engagement does not have to be the entire time. It can be isolated to a time that is going to maximize their engagement and involvement, especially when they're both together. And that is all I have today. I'm going to go ahead and drop in the chat for anyone who does not have it. And I think I need to enable this. If you don't already have it, our email is info@grnen.org. We encourage you to use that at any time if you have any extra questions. We are also here to provide support if you don't have an international partner and you are looking for one, we have had a couple of countries reach out to us so far who are interested in applying for the grant, but they would like some help seeking an international partner. So if you are also in that situation, please feel free to reach out to us because we try to make the best partnerships that we can for application success. And then again, you'll see on our website where you can find all the information. Do both partners have to complete the application or one? Just one. So what you'll see, thank you for that question. The question was, do both partners have to complete the application or just one application with two supplying a letter of support? So it's one application for each partner. And when you visit the link, when it is live, there's blocks for you to input each piece of information from each country. And then you will upload your documents. So the documents, that we shared on that screen, I just want to make sure I have it. The program budget and the program summary and the program narrative. You work on them together. You upload that directly to the application link. It only needs to be once, but we are, yes, requiring each individual university needs to share a letter of support. So Jennifer is asking, these projects are remote. 5K would not clearly support the travel of students. Am I understanding this correctly? $5,000 is the total grant awarded to a collaborative partner. So each partner, if you split it in the middle, will get $2,500. Your students are not required to travel back and forth to a rural community. They can, if that is what your program asks. And depending on where you're located and where your rural community is, it might. We have partnered that for the past 2 years, the University of Alabama, and they had a partner in Tanzania. And they did do on-site work with a rural community where they set up, they went to a local grocery store or dollar store, and they set up tables where they were distributing information about preventative care. They were distributing healthy snacks, and their students went there and they did that for a day. They did use their funding to use that for travel, for gas, to buy the snacks and to buy the information. So it depends, again, on what your program looks like and how far your students are traveling. And Jennifer, if that doesn't help you, we can even talk a little bit more about that offline.
Yeah, but Jennifer, these are designed to be virtual collaborations, not physical exchanges of students from one country to the next. If that was also what you were meaning.
Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't think of it that way. So the question is, we have mentioned indirect expenses. What does that mean or include?
Yeah, I'll kind of take that one, Stacy. So those are basically, the indirect expenses that the universities as a whole will use to cover their indirect expenses. So, and those percentages, they can be different depending upon your university. But essentially what this grant is saying is that whatever that amount is, it cannot exceed 30% of the total, if that makes sense, which is 750 after the split.
And then the question is, would we also be interested in supporting nurse researchers who want to conduct studies in rural communities?
So, yes. Yeah, the answer to that question is yes. I think that the key thing here is that ensuring that you have mechanisms that will provide that incentive for students to stay engaged. Sometimes when it's just totally 100% a volunteer type of interaction for the students, then that can become a little loose. And you may see students start to drop off. So we do have a really good example from just this past year that was a research project. And as a matter of fact, those two universities published their work in a journal. So it was a huge success story. So I think the key, though, is just to be sure that if the students are working on research, that you have a mechanism for keeping them engaged in the same way you might as in a classroom, because in a classroom they have to get the grade, right? So anyway, but that also works.
And Gladys, I'm dropping this in the chat for you. So the example that Corey was sharing is we had a it's not pasting, sorry. It's partners that were from the University of Texas at Arlington and the Charles Sturt University in Australia. And their collaboration was a research project that involved students. So if you want to look at their, oh, I put it in the wrong place, sorry. I have too many screens open. Their final presentation it might help speak to what you're talking about.
Let's see. I see another, I'm not quite sure if we're seeing the questions in the same order, Stacy. I see one that says from MH that says, do partners have to have the same project?
I'm sorry, I didn't see that one. Oh, I see that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you are developing a project with your partner. So if for example, we have somebody last year in the University of New Hampshire partnered with St. Anthony's College in the Philippines, and their project was regarding the impacts of climate health in rural populations. So when you're partnering, your entire project is designed with one project narrative, one project summary, one project goal, one project outcome, and you're working together on the same project. Your students are coming together, sharing their experiences, sharing thoughts, sharing ideas, doing collaborative work, as are the educators. Your final outcome is going to encompass what both universities derived from that experience.
But there may be, I think it is okay to maybe have some unique differences depending upon the environment in which you're working within. So for example, you may both have a project that focuses on aging populations in rural communities. There could be some differences in the detail in terms of how the students in one country might go about learning that as opposed to other. In general, it should be a similar project, though, if that makes sense. So in that example, it would be aging populations.
And the answer, Melinda, is yes. And we expect there to be considerations taken into cultural differences. In fact, one of the greatest values of this program is exposing students to different countries and different cultures. That is also one of the greatest outcomes that we see from our previous grant years, is how much the students learn from each other, about what their education process is like, what their rural communities are like,
absolutely.
Yeah, the difference in the disparities, but also more times than not, the commonalities too. So if I will share with you, University of South Dakota partnered, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on Godrian's Kaboshi Institute of Health and Allied Sciences. And they did like this really nice video at the end, which I'll share with you, that highlights like their students and what they learned and the experiences, and them talking about how like eye-opening it was for them to not only learn about their rural community, but also to learn about the culture and the rural communities and the environments of their partnered students.
So,
Question is, can the students in partnering institutions be new faculty at an institution that is developing a BSN program?
yeah, so I'll take a stab at that one, but first I want to be sure that I understand that I understand the question. It looks like it may possibly have two parts. So new faculty, yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, these grants can be a perfect opportunity for new faculty members for multiple reasons. Developing a BS nursing program. I guess we would have to learn a little more about that specific situation. We do know that sometimes the way nursing education looks in one country could be a bit different than how it might look in the US. I think the key for these grants is that they're more appropriate for nursing students who have at least a couple of years of education behind them, so that they're ready to drill down a bit more and possibly work on something that looks and feels more like a project, right? So maybe it might be helpful maybe for you to explain your situation to us. Maybe send me an email after the call and maybe I can get a little more of a clear answer. But new faculty, absolutely yes. The developing of the program, I think that answer would be based upon where you are within the development of the program. Hopefully that helped.
Yeah.
And then I saw a question that says, can you help me find an international partner? And the answer to the question is yes. However, if you are on this call and you need help finding an international partner, I would say you need to let us know ASAP. So send us an email today because we will need some time to try and help you to make that happen.
Any other questions?
Did we get all of them, Stacy?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Well, please keep in mind too that, of course, we are here to support you. If you have any other questions, hold on. The email is info@grnen.org. And next question is, the partner should be a nursing school or program, correct?
Yes, yes.
That's popping up. What did you say about supporting research? So the way that these are typically designed is that they're either classroom grants or they're research projects. So if it is a research project instead of a classroom project, all of their eligibility requirements are still applicable. It's still required to have the nursing students. It is still required to follow all of the criteria. It's just more challenging to continue the ongoing engagement and activity from the students, which is why we encourage some higher incentives, whether that be stipends or credit or some kind of recognition and award to the participation instead of just a plain volunteer, because it helps them feel more involved as well. Can we give an example of a program? Of course. So I'll just share with you like high level. So this past year that we just came off of, there
Stacey,
were, yes.
Real quick, sorry to interrupt. We might want to clarify that question. So is this question about, are you wanting an example of a program or a project that past grantees
executed, or are you asking for an example of the definition of a nursing program?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and I'm not, so we'll answer it where you were headed, with a example of a past project. But if it was something different, then let us know.
Let's see. So just to give people a quick idea while we're waiting for that response, is like past projects were like climate change impacts on nursing among students in the Philippines and the United States, rural nursing opportunities, where it was evaluated for students to rural health issues and pathways to rural nursing as a career option, health literacy projects, health competency awareness through the assessment of vulnerable populations. There have been the Global Education Rural Vaccine Project, promotion of global health competencies, engaging in a rural community at Bishop's Castle, improving access to rural healthcare services.
And it's perfectly okay. We have had past grantees who have designed their projects that actually what they're doing is they're providing a platform for those students to simply have an opportunity to explore what rural nursing looks like in their country. So one of the very first groups of grantees that we had is University of Texas, Arlington, and a university in Canada. And essentially what they did with their project is they sent their nursing students to rural clinics in their respective countries, and then virtually they included the rural students in the other country. So the students in Canada and Texas both had the opportunity to learn what a rural clinic looks like in Texas, and those same students both had the opportunity to learn what it might look like in Canada. That's another example. So in that example, they did not necessarily implement a change of some sort in a clinic, but they allowed the students opportunities to learn more about rural population health.
Someone says that rural hospital was in my town. I was CNO at the facility when it happened. We hosted the students and it was amazing.
And
We're
yes, it
so
was
grateful to hear
amazing.
that.
And we have
so
that,
nice.
we have that presentation. It's one of our YouTube videos. So yes, that was a very successful project. That was awesome.
Any other questions before we wrap up? Okay, well, what we will do is we will be reaching out to each of you once the grant application is actually live, just as a reminder on March 1. I look forward to hearing from you if you have any questions and seeing your applications come through. This is always a very exciting time when we see all of the unique projects that are going to help further the advancement of awareness and support for our rural communities. Thank you again for taking the time to be with us out of your morning or your afternoon, wherever you're calling in from. And again, don't hesitate to reach out if you have anything pop up. Once we get off the call today, we're here to help make this a successful venture for you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.